Chapter 2. The Condition of Man. She considered herself, above most things, as human. A young woman, of course, but a general representative of what humanity offered the Empire. Every soldier is an ambassador, as her father would say. The sound of her alarm quickly jolted her awake with the sounds of an old folk song. She had long forgotten the name, but it was her mother's favorite. No better way to start her first day of school than with a reminder of where she came from. Jumping out of bed, she pushed the black hair from her dark brown eyes and looked towards her nightstand for her antique spectacles. No human had needed corrective eyewear for a few hundred years, but she always saw pictures of young people wearing them in old history books and felt they looked more human than some of the modern fashions she grew up with. She quickly ran to jump into the shower before her younger brother could, knowing that he would hog all the hot water. Despite living on a military installation for her whole life, only recently had they been given access to regular warm bathing water, and not quite enough for all three of them to enjoy full showers. Looking into the mirror, she saw her once long flowing hair and the much shorter bob-like cut she had begged her father for a few days prior. She had seen it on the women in her old military history book about human soldiers and thought it looked more mature. It did not. In fact, it made her look slightly like an effeminate 12-year-old boy, but these are the kinds of mistakes we all make in high school that make us stronger down the road. So more power to her. Before leaving the bathroom, she contemplated what to do with her fingernails. Her favorite color is orange, and that seemed to complement her olive complexion nicely, but she hesitated. I don't remember seeing nail polish on military photos of Imperial Army women. What if I give them a bad impression of what humans are like? Her worries would prove to be unfounded, but the fact that she even bothered to ask herself the question at all was a very Karel thing to do. Even her appearance was part of her efforts as an ambassador to show humans in the best of light. Good morning, Karel said as she walked down the stairs and leaned in to give her father their traditional morning kiss on the cheek. Great morning now that you're here, came his usual reply. Joseph Dingley was a fairly tough-looking man, his own olive skin having long since turned into a darker leather-like appearance after years of military service on hostile worlds. Yet his great mornings somehow seemed sweeter when they come from a man that looked like he could juggle 3 bears at once while shaving with a sword. You missed a button, came a much smaller voice. It was her younger brother Mark, whose gesture of niceness was soon to take an unexpected turn. Oh, thanks, As Karel looked down at her gray military cadet uniform, she was quickly met with her brother's finger trying to poke her in the eye. Jerk! Came her traditional morning greeting as she socked him good in his right shoulder. Wow, you hit like a girl, even when you look like a boy. Dad, tell Mark to shut up. Mark, Joseph began after stifling a laugh. You know your sister has a very important day today. His voice suddenly became more solemn. It's an important day for all of us. He rose to his feet, walked over to his children, the one glaring at the other rubbing their clearly wounded shoulder. He placed one hand on each of their heads before continuing. They're not like us. We've always been seen as less than them. While the content of his words were pretty worn territory, the context had taken on different connotations that day. Karel has a chance to change all of their minds, to show them what the sons and daughters of knights, Vikings, samurais, legionaries, and immortals are capable of. Mark's smirk had shifted to a begrudged grin. Yeah, I know. I'm just joking around. I'm proud of you, sis. He returned his own soft jab at her shoulder. You better be, Karel retorted before wheeling him the right shoulder again. Joseph was not quite able to contain his laughter that time. Karel had always disliked the purples and pinks that colored most of the Chigu cityscape. Less that she thought those colors were bad, and more of how artificial it felt. Everyone wants to be red, the color of the Royal Imperial Guards and the Navigation Corps pilots who soar through the universe. But their special placement in society means that it's forbidden for most people to use them, even in decorations. They all want to be red, but settle for pink and purple as offshoots instead, Karel reasoned to herself in accidental rhyme. I'll earn that red through pure human ingenuity. She found her pace quickening as she thought about what life would be like in high school. None of her human friends could tell her, because she was the first. Well, except for people like her dad. However, things were really different then. And his horror stories of the old days would likely just give her a false impression. Today, she was going to be the best there ever was. The Thucydides Galactic Imperial Military High School welcomes freshmen, exclaimed the massive banner running across the front gate of the campus. Thucydides? What are with these Imperial names? Karel thought to herself. At least the idea of being a high school student felt tangible for the first time, seeing the words written out like that. This is where I belong. She double-checked her palm computer, even though she already had the room number, 431, memorized. You can never be too careful, she said to herself, like a paranoid weirdo. The classroom was already half filled as Karel found herself a seat in the middle of the classroom. Slackers in the back, tryhards in the front, leaders in the middle. Karel recalled her father's words when making her choice. She was determined to only stand out for the right reasons, like her academic achievement. She would eventually learn that in high school you often do not get the opportunity to choose when or how you stand out. As you likely have already heard, came a booming voice from the instructor at the front of the classroom. Oh, now that's a soldier, Karel thought to herself. Her instructor had the mustache and beard that very much reminded her of soldiers from her history books, despite being non-human. Yeah, his voice sounded like he gargled with molten lava every morning, but that was just bonus points to our girl Karel. We are welcoming the first post-cycle of integration humans into the classroom. Crap. Everyone's going to look at me. They did. Crap. I hope I'm not turning red. She was. Karel could feel herself self-consciously pushing her glasses up, even though they weren't sliding down. As such, we'll be breaking into work groups to help better integrate our newest Imperial species into the fold. Karel could feel herself tensing up. She hadn't expected to be working with other species. How am I supposed to make humanity stand out if I have to work in teams? She thought. Looking over the curriculum for the first term, it seems a much greater emphasis will be placed on Earth history. Well, as long as it's military history, this might not be too bad, Karel reasoned to herself. Therefore, I will also be assigning each of you a historic pre-space age nation to research and present your findings at the end of this quarter. Geography. Wonderful, she sarcastically thought to herself. Geography is, in fact, wonderful, but high school students are unlikely to know this just yet. Listen for your name, country assignment, and group number. I will not repeat myself. Karel quickly looked around the room. She didn't see anyone she recognized from middle school. No one to hope for as a teammate. Dinkley, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Group 4. North Korea? Not a lot of famous warriors from them. Why couldn't I get historic Korea instead? Despite her best efforts, Karel's face gave away her displeasure. Karel stood up and began walking towards the Group 4 table, already seeing two other students, both non-humans, sitting there. Hello, I'm Cadet Karel Dinkley. May I sit down? Yes, you should. The answer came quickly from the red-headed Hanguk girl. Karel had a Hanguk friend in elementary school, but hadn't spent much time around any since then, as her father encouraged her to not have too many non-human friends. Cadet Nichol Blake. Thank goodness, Karel thought, trying not to change her expression, a name I can easily pronounce. I'm Francis Rogers, and it's nice to meet you. The other student, the disheveled Nippon boy next to her, sputtered out. Oh no, is he from some backwater planet that can't even speak basic galactic standard? Karel wondered to herself. Now, even if this were true, it'd be kind of a jerk thing to think, but Karel was always a better reader of books than rooms. The boy stuck out his arm like he was about to hit her, so Karel quickly moved to sit down. What was that? Maybe Nippon men hit their women? What a barbarian. If Francis could read her mind, he would have cringed harder than he already was. We just need to wait for one more person, and then we should have a full team, Francis stated, like he was trying to control the situation. Jones, People's Republic of China, Group 4, sounded the class instructor. Jones sounds like a human name, Karel hoped, possibly prejudicially. Jones. Not coming, I guess. Okay, moving on. There goes that idea, Karel bemoaned to herself. Since Karel is the human of the group, Francis started, maybe we should have her tell us about the countries we were assigned. Crap. I don't know much Northeast Asian history outside of their military campaigns, Karel hesitated. Do you know the history of every state that ever existed for your people? She quipped. Maybe that was a little harsh, but how many 14-year-olds do you know that can articulate themselves well? I guess not. Sorry, Francis sputtered. Maybe we should look up some basic information about them now and go into specifics later? Today is going to be a busy day, the instructor began, seemingly cutting him off. First, I'm going to hand out a list of questions you will need to answer as a group after researching your country. Karel was the first to peel off her data pack from the handout and stick it on her Palm computer before her instructor even finished speaking, quickly peeling off some old ones to make room. Second, we'll need to head to the auditorium for a welcoming speech by Principal Hobbs. Finally, we will head over to the animal armory so you can pick out a group companion that you'll be required to raise and train over the course of the term. Oh, that bit of news caught Karel's attention. I had no idea we could get an animal companion. I hope it's something cute, like a cat. Hey, I'm cute. I take that personally. You'll be the first graduating class of the newly integrated empire. Do not screw this up. The instructor's words hit Karel harder than Mark ever could. I won't screw it up. I promise, she thought. The sound of a slamming door quickly jolted Karel out of her hero moment. Cadet Kenny Jones, reporting for duty. Karel spun around to see the most broad-shouldered, blonde-haired, brown-eyed Zongo she had ever seen in person. Well, naturally, the last time she spent any amount of time with one, again, was back in elementary school. Still, he ticked many of the physical boxes that human women liked. If you don't know what those are, just go ask your mom. Group 4, Cadet Jones. You can ask your teammates what your assignment is, because I'm not going to repeat myself. It seemed from his tone that the instructor had some kind of history with the boy. Thankfully, Karel's physical infatuation softened as she thought about how a pretty, but unpunctual boyfriend would be more trouble than he was worth. I'm passing out your assignment files to your Palm computers now. Look over the questions you'll need to answer after looking over each of your assigned countries quickly. We have to get to the auditorium for your opening ceremony. Yo! The Zongo's greeting caused Karel to jump slightly, having caught her off guard. Kenny Jones, yes, that Kenny Jones, he said to no one in particular. This is my group, right? Yes, Francis stated before being cut off by Nichol. Yes, it is. Don't be late to class or they're going to stick you in the infantry corps, Nichol snapped. Kenny leaned in towards the center of the table, lowering his voice. That's the idea, Fire Sprite. He began tapping a piece of blue ribbon hanging from his jacket collar. True blue? Karel was surprised to see light blue as a decorative piece. In the 14 years she had lived on military installations, it was never a very common color to see. Well, he leaned back away from the table, cocking his head back and sticking his hands deep into his pockets. Who's going to let me know what the assignment is? Francis started before being cut off once again. We have each been assigned a country from pre-space Earth history, Nichol said without missing a beat. Francis is Japan. Karel is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. I'm the Republic of Korea. Oh, that's not fair, Kenny interrupted. I get everyone's name but yours. Nichol Blake, came the unenthusiastic reply. Well, I should say unamused, as Karel noticed Nichol trying to suppress a faint smile when Kenny asked. Pretty girl, pretty boy, figures, she thought to herself, like a bitter 35-year-old. Seriously, Karel, you just met these kids. Stop being so judgmental. And that makes you the People's Republic of China, Nichol finished while gesturing to Kenny to sit down. As the team leader, Francis sheepishly began, I think we should take a look at the first question together so we can be thinking about the answer while researching our countries tonight. That way we can talk about it together tomorrow. Beanpole here is our team leader, Kenny said with a slight nasal exhale. He's an ambilegacy, Nichol clarified in a matter-of-fact tone that could also be felt like a dagger into Francis's soul. Ambilegacy? Karel pondered. I remember reading about legacy stuff in 5th grade Nippon biology class, but I don't remember specifics. Yeah, no one remembers 5th grade biology class, Karel. That's why good students take notes. It doesn't matter. Let's look over the first question before we have to leave for the auditorium. The frustration in Francis's voice was quite palpable at this point. It says, why did people form nation states? They don't, Kenny chimed in. At least not anymore. That's the point, Nichol retorted. We have to explain why they did. It's a history assignment. Just read about the Treaty of Westphalia when you do your homework tonight, Karel stated. It's kind of the start of the idea of nations in Earth history. Oh, the end of a war is still in the military history wheelhouse. Okay, you go, girl. Wait a second. Is any of that true? I don't have time to fact check, so we'll just have to take her word on it for now. Time's up, came the unmistakable voice of their instructor. Get each other's palm IDs so that you can talk to each other after the opening ceremony. The very intimidatingly tall figure stood up at attention with his arms at his side and feet together. Cadets, on your feet. Almost in unison, the entire classroom scrambled up from their chairs. Karel could feel her heart jump up into her throat. This is it, she thought with a swelling of pride in her throat. I'm a human soldier now. Nothing is going to stop me.